This is Cruise Radio.
Cruise Radio is brought to you in part by tripinsurance.com. Travel insurance done right by the people who know travel insurance. Get a quote today at tripinsurance.com.
Broadcasting from the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida.
This is
Cruise Radio. Cruise Radio.
Over the summer, Ben took a 7-night sailing on Norwegian Bliss out of Seattle to Southeast Alaska. He joins us to talk all about it. How you doing, Ben?
Doing great, Doug. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Now, you live in the Seattle area, so let's get some pre-cruise thoughts before we get to Norwegian Bliss here. What made you want to take this 7-night sailing out of Seattle to Southeast Alaska?
Yeah, great. So I am pretty much brand new to cruising. This is only my second cruise ever. And the first cruise went to Southeast Alaska on the Bliss at the same time of year a year ago. So nice. What happened was I kind of caught the bug with it. And, after the first cruise, saw like, wow, this would be a really fun thing to get my whole family to do. My parents are getting a little older. Mm-hmm. Their grandkids are moving through school. And I thought, let's just copy paste now that I know how it all works and do a group cruise with Norwegian. And we get a little discount for doing it that way. And yeah, off we went.
Awesome. So you said you live in the Seattle area. So like getting to the cruise port, is that just like an Uber ride for everyone or how does that work for you?
Yeah, I tell anybody doing a cruise out of Seattle, if you're coming from SeaTac, just hop on the light rail train. It's $4 and it's a beautiful train ride. For us, we live nearby the train. So we just walked to the station and we were right there.
Awesome. So how was the embarkation and like how long did it take you to get from the curb to the ship itself?
So we are familiar with the port and the waterfront. So we, like I said, took the train. We got off at the Symphony Station, mm-hmm. which is technically a station further from Westlake. Westlake is the closest station to get to the ship, but you got to go through Pike's Place Market that way. And that can be a little bit of a harried experience during tour season. So we got off at Symphony, rolled our suitcases. There's a public elevator, strolled along the waterfront with them. Probably took 15 minutes to get from the station to the terminal. And then we got there a little earlier than our boarding time. So we did have to wait kind of in the holding area for our group to finally, get onto the ship. But I would say it was probably an hour-long process total.
Now, are there different, and excuse my ignorance, but are there different cruise piers? Like, this isn't the same area where, like, Holland America, Carnival, and Princess are, is it?
That's correct, yeah. So there's, Pier something, uh-huh. down on the official waterfront. And mm-hmm. then there's another terminal in the Inner Bay area, which is still pretty close to downtown. But that one I would not recommend people walk from the light rail to. That one you would want to get a taxi. And another tip, the Port of Seattle has an agreement with the official old-fashioned yellow cab taxis. It's mm-hmm. a flat rate from the airport to downtown, and you're going to save yourself $40, $50 doing a yellow taxi cab rather than an Uber.
All right, so what are your first impressions the second time around for Norwegian Bliss?
Yeah, Bliss looked just as great as the first time around. We got on board. We took care of some specialty dining reservations. We boarded with my parents, and then my brothers and their family came on a little bit later. Did the tour and got into our cabins pretty quickly. We had lunch first. It took a little longer for the luggage to arrive. So the kids went off and did some swimming, and my parents were flabbergasted and they were just beside themselves. And no one in my family has done a cruise before. So it was a really exciting day.
Yeah, I was curious because you said you're very new to cruising and this is your second time. Your first one was last year on Norwegian Bliss. What was going through your mind when you walked on the ship, or did you do enough research where you knew what to expect last year?
The first time last year, I didn't do much research. I just sort of went with the flow. At that point, you had to make reservations for your go-karts and some other stuff and the comedy shows. So we took care of that. Norwegian isn't doing that anymore. It's sort of first come, first serve on those. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we went straight up to the pool deck. It's a gorgeous day, in August in Seattle. So sun was out, did some water slides and the coolest view of downtown you'll ever see.
What kind of stateroom did you book for this 7-night cruise, and what did you think of it through the voyage?
So first time we did the balcony, and this time, since my brothers and I were all helping pay for my parents' cabin, We put them in a balcony, and then we were across the hall in an inside stateroom. And our thinking was, we just did the cruise a year ago, so we would save some money with the inside cabin, and with the money we saved, that could be kind of our fun money for the trip to do all of the little add-ons and wish we could have the first time around. We did not mind the inside cabin at all. I got incredible sleep. It was dark. It was quiet. I would do it again for Alaska. And if someone can only do Alaska once, I would say probably recommend the balcony or get an inside cabin around deck 8 or 9. So it's really easy to just slip outside to that waterfront. You only spend maybe an hour or two tops the whole week on your balcony. At least we did, because it is still pretty brisk.
Sure. Did you find that the stateroom was modernized compared to most hotel rooms or land-based locations?
Both times on the Bliss, we had plenty of outlets. We had the older USB-style plugs, but really, it's a very smartly designed ship, and all of the cabins across our family, everyone was very comfortable. We had one person in one of the solo studios, and he gave us a tour of the solo lounge, and he had a great experience there as well.
All right, so let's talk about dining here on board Bliss. We'll start at the buffet area, I think it's called the Garden Cafe up there. What did you think of it? How was the food selection, and did it ever get too crowded for you?
Yeah, so the grandkids preferred the buffet, of course, and they loved it, and they ate at least one meal a day there. We pretty much stuck to breakfasts for the buffet, and we always got what we needed. We're early risers, so it wasn't too hard to get a nice table, especially all the way forward on the Bliss. You're basically above the observation lounge, so you're having breakfast with wraparound windows and views. It's hard to beat that. Food was very good. It was always hot. It was tidy. There was plenty of servers to clear your dishes or help you with anything you asked for. And yeah, it was fine. But we did definitely avoid it for lunch and dinner.
Now, outside of the buffet area, of course, you have there are 3 dining rooms, you call them. Do you have to make reservations for those dining rooms? Was it the Savor, the Taste, and the main one?
Yeah, the Manhattan room. The reservations didn't open up at the same time as the specialty restaurants, I think 120 days before. Mm-hmm. I did notice about 2 weeks before you could get some reservation slots for the Manhattan room specifically. So what I did is there were 10 of us all together. So I got 2 reservations, one for 4 and one for 6, right when they opened on the first night, because I thought it would be fun to have a big family dinner in the Manhattan room on embarkation day. And then we just talked to the host that day and said, actually, we're a party of 10, anything you can do. And they sat us at a really cool big table in a nook, and the service was really great there. A couple other folks in the family went back to the Manhattan room for one of their dinners while I did a specialty dining on another night. We did lunch at Taste and Savor, and we did a breakfast at one of them as well. No reservations for lunches or breakfast.
Did the menu change every night in the main dining room?
They've got kind of a set menu, and it is the same menu across all 3 of the main dining room restaurants. And then each day they have a rotation of featured dishes.
Gotcha.
And I know that because one of the things we did the second time around was the ship tour, which is kind of expensive, but like I said, that's why we went with the inside cabin, was to try out some of the other extras that they had available. And so we got to tour the full kitchen for the main dining rooms, and it was an extraordinary tour, and I'd recommend that. And it was really cool to see all of the menus on the wall for each day of the sailing. Definitely recommend the behind the scenes tour.
Yeah, the volume of food they're pumping out there is mind-blowing, how they actually do that and how it's so synchronized. It's very wild. So the specialty restaurants, what specialty dining did you do on this 7-night cruise? And give us some of the highlights.
Yeah, so the first cruise, Le Bistro, the French restaurant, was definitely a highlight. I was blown away at that meal. I was not expecting that kind of dining experience on a cruise ship. My expectations were muted because I live in Seattle and there's lots of good dining here. But that was a top 5 meal that we ever had. So we went back to Le Bistro twice on this sailing, and it lived up to the first time as well. the whole family did the Texas barbecue spot, and we had a great time with that. It is humongous quantities of food. So we were able to talk to the host, and they were able to let us share some of our specialty dining credits. So we didn't use 10 of them there. We only used 5 or 6, and it was still too much food for everybody. I'm not sure with the More at Sea switch whether that is still possible, but if it is, I would recommend doing that there, as well as at Food Republic. They let us share a dining credit, and it was still plenty of food for everybody.
So is that how it works? They give you an X amount of dining credits for the package you get, like the length of the cruise or whatnot?
Correct. Yes. So depending on how you book your cruise and the package, each person gets a certain number of meals included for specialty dining. And they want you to use 1 meal per person, but we spoke with the hosts at some of the restaurants, and they said, no, that's fine. 2 of you can share 1. So we were able to get an extra meal out of it.
Nice.
We also did Los Lobos and really enjoyed that. I think that restaurant is going away from the Bliss now, which is too bad because we really enjoyed that meal. And we didn't do Cagney's this time. We did it the first time I was on this cruise and had a good experience there. Yeah.
Well, since you're in the Seattle area and good food, as you mentioned, what did you think of Cagney's, though, last year when you went? Like, is it comparable to a land-based steakhouse?
Not on our sailing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was all very good, but our reservation was at a peak service time, and it was all very good. The host did greet us, which was really nice, and he got some wine recommendations, and it was a very good meal, but it was not it was not something to book a vacation for.
I hear you. Fair enough. Okay.
We did do a room service breakfast, and we went to the pub and the diner, and those were all included, and so that was worthwhile.
So the diner is up there by the pool, right? Like 1 deck above the pool, and then the local it's called on that one, which is down there, like kind of the main atrium area. What do you think of both those locations?
Both are great locations. The diner is really only open for lunch service. Mm-hmm. And so I would recommend getting there right at the top of their service time. And all of the hours are kind of different from restaurant to restaurant. So your Freestyle Daily, the little printout they give you in your room will tell you what the hours are going to be. They were pretty swamped, on the port day when everyone started trickling back. So I would recommend right at the beginning of service for the diner if you go, or do it on a sea day right at the beginning. And the pub is great. Yeah, pub was a nice way to get anybody fed who needed to be, and it was good service. It was fast, and it was all very good food.
Did the diner cost like a meal credit, or was that included in the price of the cruise?
So the cruise a year ago, it was a meal credit or a la carte. And now this year, I think fleet-wide, the American diners have shifted to be an included spot, except for the milkshakes.
Gotcha.
That's a $5 extra charge or something. Yeah.
How was the entertainment on this 7-night cruise, and what did y'all think of it?
We love the Beatles show. Would recommend that. And seeing it in the Cavern Club. They do another Beatles show in the main theater, which is great if you don't want to get there early to get a seat. There's plenty of seats in the main theater, but the Cavern Club, folks started lining up for those shows at least a half hour before, which we did. So we got seats, and it became standing room only pretty rapidly. But I think it's worth it, in our late 30s. And so a year ago, it was a little too loud for us. So we actually brought some little foam earplugs and really enjoyed it again. My parents had a great time with the Beatles show. The main shows, they've got Jersey Boys still on the ship. And on our tour, we heard someone on staff say they just renewed the contract for 5 more years. So Jersey Boys will die on that ship, and it was fine. And then the second show, Icons, that is a show Norwegian cooked up in a lab somewhere, I think, to save as much money as possible. Mm-hmm. And it was just okay. It replaced the Broadway musical 6, which we saw on my first cruise on the Bliss. And so, I was blown away that you could see 2 full-length Broadway musicals, especially a show like 6, which was brand new. And now Norwegian is sort of going back to variety shows and lower budget fare, which isn't quite what I want to do on a cruise, but I can see them trying to save money. So there you go. The other music around the ship was all really good. There was a country band at the Texas barbecue restaurant. So we enjoyed the live music there. And, we did the spa all week this time, and would highly recommend that for the Alaska sailing, the thermal spa suite. And the behind the scenes tour was also really great.
Any comedians on board or any great comedy shows?
Yeah, so they had 2 comedians, and we did the all ages show with the niece and nephews, and we all really enjoyed that performance. And then I went to the adults show on the cruise a year ago, and it's a nice, cool venue. Again, get there a little early for it, but the stand-up comedy was great. We also did bingo, and we did Deal or No Deal. We did some wine tasting classes, and we kind of took everything the ship had to offer this time.
Yeah, sounds like you certainly kept busy out there. That's awesome. As far as the casino and the smoke situation in and around it, I know the ship has designated smoking areas. In the public areas, as you were walking by, did the smoke bother anyone, or could you tell there was smoking?
Hardly a whiff. Yeah, they've got the smoking section behind sliding glass doors, and probably some massive state-of-the-art ventilation happening there. So not a whiff.
Gotcha. And how were the sea days as far as crowds and congestion?
I thought the ship did a really good job spreading people out. The pool deck was packed, but we were still able to find loungers and, wait your turn for the hot tub. Sometimes we went to the hot tubs later at night on a port day, and it was like a wasteland up there. So it was really pretty in Victoria, actually. If you don't get off the ship, go back to the pool decks. The hot tubs are empty, and the city is twinkling, and that was kind of a fun last night thing to do. Oh, entertainment-wise, we did the race cars as a full family.
Yeah.
Had a great time with that. My tip there, because there's no reservations anymore, is try to go early on in the sailing, because weather and other surprises can cancel. And you also want to get there 10, 15 minutes before it opens on the day you want to go, because, boy, we probably waited an hour and a half. It looks like a short line, but it's a Disney situation. The line actually wraps around in a hidden spot. So get there early for that. And then the laser tag, which I think is gone now. I can see why it went away. It was great for our family, but it's, a big, cool, huge part of the ship that, especially in Alaska, didn't really make sense to have up there until it got dark.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so let's talk about your ports of call here. You leave Seattle. What was your first port of call? Give us a highlight, then you can move to the next one.
So up first was Sitka. You need to wait in a line for the shuttle buses there. That took probably a half hour, and then it drops you off in downtown. We walked to the Totem National Park, and it was really a highlight for everybody. We didn't spend any money in Sitka. We, walked through the park for an hour and a half. There was a little shop that had chowder. We stopped in for that. And we just enjoyed kind of being away from the crowds, being in the woods. We saw in August millions of salmon, which was really exciting. We saw bald eagles. Sitka was great. Then next day was Juneau. And most of my family did an excursion to the Mendenhall Glacier. We had done that the year before, so we had a spa day. But the blockbuster excursion for Norwegian on the Dawes Glacier itinerary. If you're not going to Glacier Bay, you're probably going to the Endicott Arm and Dawes Glacier. And there is an excursion that is only offered through the cruise line, and it's called the Endicott Arm and Glacier Explorer. It is not cheap, but it is worth the price of the entire cruise fare. Basically, it's an expedition ship that leaves out of Juneau, and then it zips way up the Endicott Arm ahead of the Bliss. And you see all kinds of sea life, waterfalls, and then it gets you right up to the glacier, where it had the National Geographic moment of the glacier calving, and they scooped ice chunks out of the water and made cocktails with them. There was snacks. It was a breathtaking excursion. And then the coolest part is the Bliss it's too big to get up to the glacier. So if you see it at all from the Bliss, which on our first sailing a year ago, there was too many ice chunks in the arms, so we never got to see the glacier. But this excursion, most of the time, makes it all the way there. Basically, the Bliss catches up to you, and then you board while at sea from the expedition vessel onto the main ship. And then you take the main ship back down through the arms. So everybody on the ship was like, how did you get onto the little boat? What's the little boat? How did that work? Which was basically me a year ago. And that's why I wanted to make sure we got the little boat. So that's the one to do it. And I would say the Endicott Arm / Dawes itineraries are all about $300 cheaper than the Glacier Bay itineraries. So use that money to get the little boat and you'll have your blockbuster glacier excursion moment.
So just so clear here. So in Juneau, you actually, this is where you boarded the little boat, but then so the ship leaves Juneau after 5 or 6 hours, you get there early, I assume, and then it catches up with you later on in the afternoon in the glacier?
That's correct.
Okay.
So on this itinerary, you're at Juneau till 3 or 4.
Okay.
And so you can still plan a whole day in Juneau. And then right when you're at boarding time, you meet up to do this excursion. And so instead of leaving with everybody else on the Bliss, you leave on the expedition boat, and that zips way ahead. And it's a 5-hour excursion total. And then you don't come back down the arm on the excursion boat. You get back on the Bliss with everybody else right at the glacier. If you're searching for it, if you're searching for this excursion on Norwegian, it's the Endicott Arm and Glacier Explorer is the name of it. Yeah. And you want to look for it at the Juneau port is where you'll see it. And I think they do a similar one with the Hubbard Glacier itineraries. So look for that too.
With NCL docking in Juneau, does it dock right there along the main pier where like you have 4 or 5 ships docked in one long stretch, or is it at a different location?
No, it's right there at the main pier.
Okay. Then after Juneau, where'd you go?
After Juneau would be Icy Strait Point. Had a great time there. Walking the beaches, looking at the all the sea life, and the local shops are there. We like Icy Strait because I believe all of the shops at that port are native owned. So it's a little more authentic and it's a little more local there. And then we did the zip line this time. We didn't do it the first time around. So that was great. I don't need to do it again, but it was sure a lot of fun. And we had a good day at Icy Strait.
It's like one of the world's longest, isn't it? Oh, it's over a mile.
Yeah.
After Icy Strait, where did y'all go?
Ketchikan.
Okay. And
Ketchikan is the one where Norwegian basically built its own pier, and it's about 15 minutes away from downtown Ketchikan, where the rest of the ships are. So the first cruise, we did the free shuttle to downtown, and then we made sure to basically leave downtown an hour or two before we wanted to. That way we didn't get stuck in a huge line. This year we decided to do an excursion there, and we did the crab feast, and I would highly recommend that. It was a huge amount of fresh crab, and we got to go out and, pull the basket in, and they held up a fish, and a bald eagle came and snatched it out of the captain's hands. It was a great excursion as well.
Is the crab feast all you can eat?
Yes, and it was. I mean, we gorged ourselves. They do a great job at that restaurant. There's a competition to see which table can make the highest tower of crab legs and prizes. It was a great time, and the crab was very fresh, and we live in Seattle where we can get fresh crab all the time, but it was literally caught that morning.
Awesome. And wrapping it up in Victoria, how was your day there?
We did not get off the ship either time. It's it's a very short port on this itinerary, at least. So we just enjoyed the evening and the ship and the lights from the boat. Living
in Seattle, can you take like a ferry over there or anything? Victoria?
Yeah. So you could go up to the Olympic Peninsula, Port Angeles, and then take a ferry across, or a seaplane, actually. Nice. I'd recommend that too.
How was your debark process? You get back to Seattle, time to get off the ship, all 10 of y'all. How easy was it?
It's pretty straightforward. We did the carry my things off myself option, and said goodbye to the family. A little bit of a wait at the elevators, but nothing too awful. And before you know it, you're outside.
So you've done it twice now. Any first-time tips for Norwegian Bliss or Alaska?
Yes. So I would recommend, definitely would recommend the thermal spa package for the week, or going in there midweek to see if they have any kind of prorated the last 3 days of the sealing. I would highly recommend that. It really does make the experience, especially in the evenings, just to warm up in there and enjoy the views from the spa. They have it's kind of a gross title, but they have a romance package. I think it's called Lover's Delight. And so take a look at that. It's in the gift section for Norwegian, and they have it on all of their sailings as far as I can tell. But it's actually a pretty good value, and it basically includes a whole bunch of extras on board. So you get an extra specialty dining at La Bistro. You get a couple's massage for two. Some photos, bubbles in your stateroom, all kinds of things. So I'd recommend that if you plan to spend more time on the ship on your itinerary. I thought that was a kind of a fun enhancement.
Thermal suite on Bliss. Does it have the snow room?
Yep. It's got the snow room. It's got the ceramic loungers. It's got the steam room, the salt room. It's got a very large thermal pool with billions of little bubbles everywhere. And a hot tub. Yeah, they did a great job.
Looking back, what was the biggest highlight of this cruise for y'all?
Absolutely the Glacier Explorer excursion. We would do the sailing again, honestly, just for that.
And your final thoughts in closing here of Norwegian Bliss.
Staff was great. The ship was great. Food was great. I would recommend, working with your travel agent or with the cruise line directly, to do the group cruise pricing scheme. It saved us all some money, and every cabin got some onboard credit with that. So that was pretty painless to do. You do need 5 cabins worth of people, and they need to be double occupancy, which is a little catch that we didn't know about, but we got it sorted. And I'd recommend doing a group sailing to Alaska for sure.
We've been talking with Ben about his 7-night Alaska cruise out of Seattle on Norwegian Bliss. Ben, thank you so much for stopping by, my friend. I sure appreciate it.
Thanks, Doug. And I've got another sailing on the Joy to the Mexican Riviera for spring break coming up. So I'd love to come back and tell you about it.
I'd love to have you, man.
Have a question or a comment for the show? Yeah! Send an email or voice memo to doug@cruiseradio.net.
A big question we get at Cruise Radio is, how do I know if I need trip insurance? Simple answer. If you're getting on a plane, taking a road trip, or getting on a cruise ship, you need to have travel insurance. Hey, it's Doug Parker from my friends at tripinsurance.com. Not only does tripinsurance.com protect your vacation investment, but it also gives you peace of mind in case anything were to go wrong on your trip. How do they do it? They offer 3 different types of trip insurance policies. Good, better, and best. One policy for every vacation budget. But it doesn't just stop there. They're up to 40% lower when you shop around on other comparison sites. Plus, tripinsurance.com offers 24-hour customer support before, during, and after your trip, online claims assistance, and travel alerts to let you know what's going on at your destination. But find out for yourself. Check out tripinsurance.com.
All right, Dougie, let's see what we got for you, buddy. Cruise Radio is produced at the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. Get cruise news, ship reviews, and money-saving tips every Thursday on Cruise Radio. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show. If you want to help spread the word, give Cruise Radio a 5-star review. Find Cruise Radio where you listen to your favorite podcast or online at cruiseradio.net. I'm your announcer,